Hey, everybody. Well, first of all, thanks for carving out some time this evening. We have people from California, West Coast, Midwest, all over. So I'm glad that we've got a great group of people today. I'm doing this from a conversation that I had with Dr. Lackey of just we try to do our best to keep information flowing, but I know that there's a lot of questions, and I know we're kind of a new player in this arena of animal chiropractic. So I wanted to try to create an opportunity to give you an update of things that have been done, where we're at on things, and then a chance for you guys to ask some questions as well. We're recording this so that we can give this to other people that weren't able to make it this evening, again, in an attempt to keep communication open and then relaying it consistently and congruently, which oftentimes is not always an easy thing to do with these types of matters. So I will tell you, once I get done my update, I'll open it up for you guys. You can ask me anything. Just be careful because I will answer it. So just don't ask a question if you don't want the answer. I'm just gonna just to get this documented and on a brief manner, I want to give a little bit of an understanding of who I am, who my organization is, and why we're in this space. Because for some of you, this may be the first time that you're hearing from me. You've maybe seen some stuff going around, but you don't really understand who I am and why we're doing what we're doing. I am not a chiropractor. I am celebrating my 26th year in chiropractic. I call myself the profession's biggest groupie that it's ever had. I'm not married into it. I don't have anyone in my family that's part of it. It was just a God thing that he moved me to back in the mid 90s. And I fell in love with the profession and made a commitment to myself and to God that I was going to own this thing, chiropractic. And so I've been on a journey for the last 26 years to really understand what chiropractic is, why it works, and then use the skill sets that I have to try to advance the utilization of chiropractic as much as I can. In that journey, I've owned clinics. I've had a consulting company. I was the executive director of the Ohio State Chiropractic Association. I served on the boards of a number of national organizations throughout chiropractic. I've done just about everything you can do in the profession other than legally adjust. And yes, that's a joke. That was supposed to be a bump and get some laughter there. But my daughter is a chiropractor. She's a year out. She graduated from Sherman, and my son is at Life right now in third quarter. So I'm all in. This is my life. It's not a job. It's my commitment to the profession. In 2016, I left my position as executive director of the Ohio State Chiropractic Association, and with a group of individuals created my organization, OneChiropractic. I created it because of my frustration with the way that the profession of chiropractic operates. We have literally the best service and product known to man, but we tend to circle the wagons and shoot inward rather than actually organize and move together to accomplish things that can better humanity. I saw that firsthand in my leadership role within the state of Ohio. And I read a quote from Buckminster Fuller that said that you cannot change an existing reality by fighting it. You need to create a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And so that was the creation of our organization. So OneChiropractic is a nonprofit 501c6 organization, but rather than being a membership organization, we are a directorship. Essentially what that means is we're a nonprofit, but we operate like a corporation. I'm the CEO. I have pretty much total control. I do have a board that oversees finances to make sure that I'm not taking this thing off the rails, but I don't need permission to move and do things at the moment's notice, which is really one of the biggest problems that we have in chiropractic. Is most organizations are membership organizations, which mean they need the majority of the vote of the board to agree, or they need to go and get consensus from the membership. And so it just takes forever to turn the Titanic because everything is contentious in chiropractic. And so that was one of our new models, was creating an organization that wasn't hamstrung by trying to get a bunch of chiropractors to agree, because that's just doesn't happen very often. So we started in 2016. We worked on a various number of issues. In 2021, we really created our flagship offering, which is the Chiropractic Defense Council. That was an idea that was given to me from a dear friend of mine, Dr. Steve Franson. And he said, how amazing would it be if chiropractic had a special forces type of a Navy SEAL team that whenever chiropractic was under attack anywhere in the world, we could deploy our team and defend the rights of practicing chiropractors. And I fell in love with the idea, and I asked him if I could take it and run with it. And he was gracious enough to let me have his idea. and we built the Chiropractic Defense Council. We launched it in July of 21. We didn't know God's timing and his plan, but we do know it's always perfect. In August was when the first state, California, started mandating vaccines for chiropractors. We were the only organization that was leading on the front, saying adamantly, you do not have to be vaccinated to continue to practice. We hired a bunch of attorneys. We created protocols. We worked in conjunction with a lot of state associations, and we were able to successfully defend chiropractors in the 7 states in the US that had mandated vaccines. Word spread very quickly. We ended up in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, in Europe. And we grew very extensively, up to over 4,000 individuals that were contributing to us monthly. And we had 59 attorneys on retainer, and we were doing all kinds of work. Since then, we have, obviously the COVID issues have dropped. We've really started tackling the issues that we feel are restrictions for chiropractors, which this is where the animal chiropractic comes in. About a year and a half ago, I was contacted by the California Chiropractic Association, their executive director, informing me that they had a couple members that had gotten cease and desist letters from the veterinary board saying that they were practicing veterinary medicine without a license. And would this particular situation fall in the purview of the Chiropractic Defense Council? I said, I don't know. I need to look at it. We looked at it. I felt it was definitely in our wheelhouse. So for the last year and a half, I've been trying to understand this thing, animal chiropractic, and all of the weird variables that fit into this with the veterinarians, with chiropractic, with licensing boards, with state associations, AVCA, IVCA, all the different schools. And really, to no surprise, it's as FUBARD as human chiropractic. It's all over the place. There's no real organization. There's no real structure. And, I understand from the state association standpoint, I think arguably there's about 1,100 to 1,500 certified chiropractors around the entire country. So if you break that up into the 50 states, you're going to have 50, 30 to 50 in California, maybe 30 to 50 in Texas, not big numbers, right? And so this is why state associations are not willing to fight this issue, because it's just a small percentage of their membership, but the fix is pretty substantial. To fix some of the issues in your states, it's opening up the Practice Act. That's scary for any state association to open that Practice Act. And especially in Texas, for those of you from Texas, you guys just got done fighting the TMA who was going after your scope there. The idea of opening that up to add the word animal is very scary to a lot of associations, especially when it really only impacts less than 1% of their membership. So again, that's part of the issue that I told you I had with it, which is why we created our organization. And so as I dug into this and I've had more questions, I will be completely transparent. My daughter is an animal chiropractor. She went to ACES and will be sitting for her AVCA certification in September. So I am intimately involved with it there as well, learning the process through her and understanding this. So I have a little bit of skin in the game. But even if she wasn't a factor, this is still the type of case we would take on, because in my opinion, the rights of practicing chiropractors are being violated in these states that do not have appropriate language, which allow them to do the work that they're trained and capable of doing. So that's the backstory. That's kind of who I am. It's why I'm doing it. It's what our organization is about. One of the other major questions that we get all the time is what about the economics? How do you guys have money to do what you do? We're completely contributor funded. Our ask of everyone is $33 a month. So currently right now we have just over 2,400 individuals around the world giving us $33 a month. So every single month I kind of rebuild my budget, which allows me to continue to maintain the battles that we take on all over the world. And right now we have about 9 major battles that we're fighting across the world. And so that gives me the resources to be able to do what we do. It's a long, sustained battle. Very few of the things that we do are super cost evasive right up front. It's about sustaining a legal battle or a legislative battle over a long period of time. So I built the organization to be able to handle long-term fights, not to be able to spend $100,000 tomorrow, but instead we're going to do 20 grand for the next 12 months, right? So just so you can understand the concept of how our organization works and why it's structured the way that it is. Obviously, we'll take more money if people want to give it, but my whole goal was to get a bunch of people to do a little. You guys are going to start seeing a lot of things coming out from us. We're going to be launching a new campaign here shortly saying be one of the 10,000. Our goal is to get 10,000 individuals worldwide to be connected to us. Because if you can move 10,000 people at one time, it's unstoppable. We proved that during COVID in Australia. We had 900 people, and we literally stopped the Australian government in its tracks because I had 900 people moving at the exact same time, the exact same way, and we successfully defended them. And so I know it works. I've tested the theory. We've done it in battle, and it works. And we now need to make that momentum move across the whole world so that people understand chiropractors are no longer the low-hanging fruit that they can pick on and keep us segmented and keep our heads in the hole. So our whole idea is a bunch of people doing a little bit. It's $33 based on the 33 principles within chiropractic. It's also that amount so that it doesn't stop you from supporting the other things that you believe in, because you got to, a lot of organizations ask you for money, but you got to pick and choose because you only have so much to give. And so we wanted to do a low amount that didn't stop you from still being a member of your state organization or supporting anything else that you might be a part of. So that's the economics. That's the only way we support. Right now, we do not take any corporate dollars whatsoever. It is really all from individuals. And that's by design, because we don't send emails trying to solicit products. We don't do any of that kind of stuff. That you won't be solicited from us as being part of our organization. So that's about us, why we're here, how we got here, and what our goal is. Our primary objective in this space is to standardize the language across all 50 states to ensure that certified animal chiropractors have direct access. That's our mission. We have it right now in 7 states. It's about to happen in New Hampshire. For those of you that don't know, it got through the House and the Senate in New Hampshire. We're looking at that language now, and they're waiting for the governor to sign it. So I was just working on that today. So that'll be added to the list. We're actively working in California, actively working in Texas, actively working in Pennsylvania. We're starting to work in New Hampshire. Illinois is definitely a target that's going to be a pain in the butt, you damn liberal state people. And we are going to do our best to take this.
Hey.
What's that?
In 2011 is when the law changed here. It used to be direct access.
Yeah, correct. Yep. So, our whole goal is to go to all 50 states where they have very similar language, so that an individual that comes out of school doesn't have to decide where they're going to practice based on where they get to practice. Rather, they can practice anywhere they want and know that the law enables them to do it. Because of my background and where I come from, I'm intimately involved with groups like the Chiropractic Congress, which organizes all the state associations. I know about 90% of the executive directors of the state associations personally. I also work with FCLB, which is the Federation of Chiropractic Licensing Boards. They are my conduit to help me work with the licensing boards in each state to have this conversation so that they're not afraid. Like I said, this is a touchy issue because in some of the states, we have to open the scope of practice, the Practice Act. And that's just a scary thing for everybody. So we've got to be very diligent about the way we go about this. As I started looking at the scope of the work that needed to be done, I started looking at the infrastructure of the industry. And to just put it politely, it's screwed up. You have the AVCA that is a certifying organization. They certify schools, and then they do the certification test for the providers. You have IVCA, who's a certifying body that only does tests for options for animals. And neither one of them are really a member benefit organization. Neither one of them really have the resources like what we're trying to do legislatively, resources for individuals to help them in practice, or if they have issues individually. There's really no place for individuals to go to get help if they're struggling in their state or get advice or anything like that. That was a very scary thing for me because I personally believe this particular niche is going to explode over the next 10 years. I think as chiropractors start understanding the power of working in the animal space, the need for it and the economic impact of doing it, because it's a lot more lucrative to adjust a dog than it is a human, then there's going to be a shift, which I'm in full favor for, because I'd rather them start adjusting animals than putting decompression units in their practice. So it's just me personally, because I'm in love with the adjustment. So I think there's going to be a massive shift of a lot more people, wanting to play in this arena, especially as we start getting laws that allow people to do it without fear of any retribution from the vet side. that we've got to clean our house up. We've got to get organized. We've got to get structured. So over the last year and a half, I've had calls with the AVCA, their board. I've had calls with the IVCA and their board. I've had calls with most of the movers and shakers in this space, just learning history, understanding why things are the way they are, kind of planting seeds about my vision of where things are going, what I would like to see happen, that create an environment that is more conducive for us to do the work that I really want to do, which is move legislation across the country. But I can't really move legislation across the country until I kind of get things in order, because when the legislators start asking questions and we don't have a good structure, that makes it harder for me to try to push it in states where it's going to be a bit more contentious. Does everybody understand that? Like it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. So I've ended up having to become more of an organizer and to build a model in the animal space before I can do the work that I really want to do. So in that, I was trying to really hard petition the AVCA to step up and actually become a member organization in conjunction with the certification. Long story short, they don't really have a desire to do that. To their defense, I understand why they don't want to do it, because they're a membership of both chiros and vets. And it's very hard to do that when you got to pick sides on certain issues. And it could be a divisive nature between their membership. I understand that. That's disheartening to me, because they're the perfect organization to do it, but they're not going to do it. They have no desire to do it. So I'm done asking them to do it. So I am in the process of working with another organization to try to create a membership organization that is a one-stop shop for all things animal chiropractic. They're not going to get into the certification stuff. That's being done fine by AVCA, IVCA. But when it comes to continue education, when it comes to resources, when it comes to being an ally in these fights of what we're doing in these states, to be able to be the collector of all of the data, to really have anybody can go to the website and see where the states are, where the language is at, a real-time clock on things that are happening, like just be a resource center for people in the animal chiropractic space. That needs to be developed. So we're in the process of trying to get that developed. I'm hoping by June, I will be able to let everybody know that there is an actual organization that's working for the advancement of animal chiropractic, purely from a resource standpoint. And I think that's desperately needed. I think people are hungry for that in this space, to kind of have a home that isn't political, have a home that's really based on providing resources and information and growing this amazing space. But that's coming. I'm excited. I'm not going to give too much detail because it's not done yet, and I don't want to promise something I can't deliver, but I'm working very diligently to make that happen. Once that happens, then I will feel more comfortable to be full steam ahead on working on this legislation. Both in Texas and California, we will be dropping legislation in the general session 2025. So this year is all about doing interested party meetings, getting language created, testing the waters, talking to the vets, preparing for a battle if there's going to be a battle. But I want to be very, very clear. While this is being recorded, I want to be very clear about the right way to approach this conversation. So if you're watching this live or you're watching this recorded, and in your state, you're very eager to get moving to try to change legislation, we have to be very careful. When we start going rogue and a bunch of these random groups just start trying to move legislation and the language is all over the place because there's no organization of this effort, you're creating precedent that makes it very, very hard for us to actually achieve our goal. And this is not a condemnation on Kentucky at all. And because I love Rachel Wendt, who's the executive director there. I love the work that she's doing, and I know Kentucky is its own animal. But if you're familiar with what happened in Kentucky, their win was to create a permit under the vet board, which means chiropractors now have to go and take a jurisprudence with the vet board to get this permit. And right now, Rachel's really fighting with them because they're now putting all of these restrictions in the permit. And so she's having to have these long meetings and fight with them. And it's just, we don't want that. The language needs to be under the Chiro board. So the narrative, the elevator pitch that we're taking into these states, that if the vet boards and associations will listen to us, it's a win for them, what we're actually asking. All we're asking is that in these states, that if you're a certified provider, if you have an AVCA or an IVCA certification, that you have direct access. If you do not have a certification, then there should be some coordination of care with a vet. All right, that's the legislation. In the legislation, it also says that the chiropractic board will hold a roster of certified individuals, so that at any point, if there's a question or a challenge or a complaint, it goes to the chiropractic board. They look on their register to see if this individual is certified. If they are, then they're fine. If they're not, then the chiropractic board can reach out and hold that person accountable for practicing animal chiropractic without there being a coordination of care with a vet, right? So it's all in the chiropractic space, but this is the win for the vets. Like I said, most of these states have less than 50 individuals that are certified in a cumulative number. That means the rest of the licensed chiropractors would have to coordinate with vets. This is a win for vets. This is actually putting language, rather than it just being under their language and their board, it's under the Chiro language that stops the weekend warriors, which we all agree with. None of us want these people that are going to weekend seminars going out and calling themselves animal chiropractors. This ding dong that's all over social media adjusting dogs from Germany, that's not anything, but he's out there acting like he's the grand poobah of animal adjusting. That stuff has to stop. So we believe that if the vet groups will listen to us, we are providing them exactly what they should be taking to their members, that they're continually protecting the space of veterinary medicine, and the only those that have additional certification. Because if you really look at this, you have all of your chiropractic education, right? 45 to 4,700 hours. Then you have, depending on what school you go to, anywhere from 210 to 270 hours of additional animal-specific education. And then you have a certification exam on top of that with a practicum. So these are highly educated individuals that should have the right to be able to see these animals without any interference from a vet. So this is a win for them. So if we can get these people slowed down and stop thinking we're asking for all chiropractors to be able to do that, I believe that we're not going to have the battle that we would think we were going to have if we can just get them to sit down and listen to what it is we're actually asking for. So I do believe once we start having a few of these win, when we get Texas done and California done, which we will get them done, that's going to be a huge tidal wave that we're going to be able to ride through other states because of the size of those states. These smaller states are going to be like, oh, okay, now we have 10 states. Now we have 15 states. Now we have 17 states that are all agreeing to this unified language. It's going to make it much easier to ride that wave and hopefully take on the rest of the country. So that's our strategy. That's our pitch. There's no cloak and dagger. There's no smoke and mirrors. It's very straightforward. We're doing what's best for animals. We're doing what's best for providers, and we're doing what's best for veterinarians, because we all agree that the wrong people shouldn't be doing the care to these animals. And so we're working with anybody that we can work with to be able to have these conversations, to be able to sit down and communicate and let them know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and it's not an unfair ask. So as we continue to maneuver and bring people in, my ask, my request, nice of you to be on time there, Billy. My request of everyone is that we keep centralizing information. Right? As I told you, hopefully soon I'll be able to let you know that there's a centralizing organization that we can do that with, that we'll be partnering with very closely. And that's where we'll house a lot of our information. As you hear of other people in other states that are wanting to start working on their issue, I just started working in New Mexico. We have an issue there of a chiropractor that's being, they actually got the attorney general involved in New Mexico. But, as those things happen, I would love it to be centralized so that we're using all of the effort in the same way across the country, rather than a bunch of rogue groups or individuals just doing their own thing, because that's the only way we're going to have the success in a shorter period of time, is when we're centralizing. I don't necessarily want to control everything. You can talk to the Texas docs. They kind of have their thing going. So I'm just there to give information and to support, but they're doing their own thing. I'm more intimately involved in California because I was asked to be. So I'm not looking to take charge or take over, but we right now are really the only national group that's taking this on, that's communicating with the other national organizations, making them aware of what's going on, letting the states know that we're going to be doing this, that they don't have to do it alone. We're not asking them to use chips. You know, I'm like, for example, in California, you know, we have a good communication with the state association where, you know, during this last session, they weren't comfortable really making this a major priority, but they knew we were working on it. We kept them included, but now we're moving into a new legislative cycle, and it looks like they're going to be more intimately involved. So it's all about communication. It's all about everyone staying on the same page and transparency in what we're trying to do. And that's absolutely imperative right now as we start pushing this stuff forward. I know there's a lot of frustration. I know there's a lot of anger. I know there's a lot of just pent up aggression, whether it be pointed at other chiropractors, pointed at state associations, pointed at vets. I don't care where it's at, pointed at AVCA or IVCA. I'm asking everyone to take a deep breath. Let's organize ourselves, put a good plan together, and then march it forward to success. So that's kind of where we're at. That's the work that we've been doing, and we're going to continue to do. It's going to be a very, very busy year, both in 2024 and 2025. I imagine in 2025, we're going to have about 5 or 6 states that we're moving all at the same time, by the looks of what I'm seeing right now. So, but our goal is to take it to all 50 states. So it's not, you know, if you're in a state that I haven't mentioned, trust me, I have a list of every state that has good and bad language. And we are going to be taking this to all the states, but we've just obviously have a limited amount of resources. I can't take on all 50 states at the same time. So, but that's where we're at. So with that, I want just some housekeeping so this doesn't turn into a massive chaos. If you look down, hold on, I got to figure out what, in the reactions tab on the bottom of your screen, there's a hand that you can raise it, and then I'll call on you to ask your question. So just go to the reactions tab, raise your hand, and it'll move you to the top of the queue, and I will be happy to answer that question. Go ahead, Donna.
There we go.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Unmute yourself again. I apologize. There you go.
How's that?
Good.
Good. I wanted to say thank you. I'm in Pennsylvania, and I have been an AVCA certified doc for 27 years.
Wow. Good for you.
Judith Shoemaker and myself and Lee Simpson went to our boards, joint boards, 27 years ago, trying to talk to them like you are. And so for 27 years, I've had to work in vets' offices. And I just want to say thank you, because for 27 years, even though I'm in the office, you're still looking over your shoulder.
Sure.
You know, and I look forward to not having to look over my shoulder.
Good.
So, I mean, I'm grateful for what I've been able to do for 27 years, my passion, but to have that freedom and to know that the other people that shouldn't be doing it can't be doing it.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you. That's all.
Well, is purely my pleasure. Thank you, Donna. Any other questions? There's no way I did that good of a job.
Baron, sorry, I got dropped from Zoom for a minute, so I'm back in now. Thanks for finding me.
Oh, you're good.
I watched your quip ahead of this meeting tonight. I watched your couple of minutes that you did letting everyone know it was happening, and you sounded like you're asking the question about why people haven't rallied around this yet. Why do you think animal chiropractors haven't rallied around this like you hoped yet?
Yeah, well, one, it's chiropractic. In chiropractic, there's apathy galore within chiropractic in general, no matter what your specialty is. So that's number one, because I have the same issue on the human side. If I went through the dialogue of everything we're fighting, why every chiropractor wouldn't be willing to give half of an adjustment a month to support this is beyond me. Like, there's never been anything like what we're doing. So there's just massive apathy. Secondly, they don't know where to go. I'm a new face. They don't know whether to trust me or not. Chiropractors have been promised the world 17,000 times over, and no one delivers. So I think because I'm not trusted, it isn't until some of the trusted people say, hey, I know that guy, Dr. Lackey, I'm just going to use you as an example. When Dr. Lackey and I first started talking, I've been around for a long time. There's a lot of people that do not like me. There's a lot of rumors about me out there. And so, it's just a trust issue. Momentum becomes magnetic. as we start moving forward and we continue to organize and we continue to do what we said we were going to do, they will come. All I'm asking people to do is stop segmenting. In this space, it is way too small to segment. Like, I don't care if you contribute to us at all. I mean, I wish people would, because we're starting to spend a decent amount of money in this space, but I'm not, it's not a pay to play kind of a deal. But I've only got 127 people that have come to our site and raised their hand saying, I'm interested in animal chiropractic. I want that number to be 900 to 1,000 people, not even from economics, but just from a standpoint of, like, when we launched this membership organization, that way everybody hears it the right way at the exact same time, and there's no telephone game. When you have all these segments, you're hearing it from someone else's perspective that doesn't really know what they're saying. They're saying it emotionally, and that's where things get distorted. All I want to do in the chiropractic space is move people at the same time, the same way at the same time, so that we reduce confusion and we build trust in organization. So I think it's apathy, number one. I think number two, they don't know who to trust, because this has been such a segmented issue. And a lot of people were very passionate, and they did the right thing and went to their state organizations, and their state organizations ignored them. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, they did. And so now they're disenfranchised by organizations because they don't feel like they're ever really going to speak for the little guy. And which is exactly why we created this organization, because we want to fight for any individual chiropractor that their rights are being violated. That's the whole way we're structured. Whether they can afford to defend themselves or not, we are going to defend them. So those are the main reasons that I honestly think that the people haven't rallied behind it. And again, it's very disjointed. As I'm talking, there's, like, Dr. Lackey has a really good following. There's a couple other people that have a pretty good social following. There's also a shit ton of egos involved. There are a lot of people that like the chaos and separation so they can be the hero of their own space, which I have zero time for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I'm hearing what you're saying. It's a lot of negatives. I disagree that people are apathetic. I don't doubt that it sometimes feels like that. I don't think people are apathetic in animal chiropractic. Based on the conversations I've been having, people need direction. And I think the trust is a bigger issue. I think to be an animal chiropractor, we have to care a shit ton. So if you're running into apathy, I think you're misconstruing that, honest to God.
okay, well, maybe that's not the right word, but it's still people that are stuck in their anger, frustration. And I don't mean to be negative, because I'm not a negative person. I mean, your question is, why haven't people done something? And
no, you answered it completely. And I think I just want to make sure, especially if we have the chance to talk to our colleagues who couldn't join us tonight, I think it's about giving us some spiz and, like, getting us excited, like, emotionally about it. I don't think it's apathy. I think it's a lot of
that's fine.
We
don't need to mince over words, but I believe that this space is going to take off like crazy, as I said earlier. I think once we organize, I think this is going to be one of the funnest, like, projects that we have within our organization, because you're right. Animal chiropractors in general are amazing people that love and care. Animal chiropractors are even to the next level, because, you know, you have to be a special kind of person to want to get around a 7,000-pound animal and start, you know, rubbing on it and throwing its neck around. Right. So there's, I agree with you that there's a good people. When I say the word apathy means that I don't believe my action is going to make a difference. So I'm just going to sit here and wait for someone else to do it. There is some of that. And maybe not in your circles. I'm just telling you, I've been doing it for 1.5 years talking to everyone, and people are like, nah, I'm just going to stay in my space. If you have success, good for you. But I've got my own little world, and I'm going to live in it. That's what I'm trying to change. And that's why I'm saying we need a member organization. We need a hub for centralizing location where people feel heard, where they know they can go and actually get responded to a phone call or an email, which hasn't happened with certain organizations. So all of that, I think, is what's going to start breeding excitement. It's going to start breeding belief, and communication will start flowing. So I think we're on the same page for sure. But yeah, that's just why I don't think it's happened yet.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your questions, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for your answers.
Yeah, you got it. Donna?
I know in Pennsylvania, for myself, once I was involved with Judith and Lee at the board meetings, and then having received the letter after being investigated for practicing veterinary medicine without a license, and them going, oh yeah, you're fine, because I worked in an office and I was following the rules. To be honest, I just ducked down
Yeah.
and did my work. Because in Pennsylvania, if you poke that head up
Yep. You're a
and
target.
become
Yep.
seen,
Yep.
my head was going to get chopped off.
Yep.
And my passion is animals. And so for me, it was more important to be of service, and just keep my head low and help as many animals as I could.
100%. Yeah. And we fought
So
that,
that's
and
just
we
me.
are fighting that in California as well, because that was one of the stance from the vet group was, no, it's working great. You know, and it's like, no, not so much. And, you know, it's just because people are operating within a system doesn't mean the system's efficient or appropriate. Right. And so that's part of, you know, why I want that centralized location with information, because as we're building materials for California, Texas, and Pennsylvania, that's going to come in handy in Illinois, because the argument's the argument, right? There's maybe a little bit of a different pathway, but the objections are the objections. And the more we really build a very powerful argument for our case, and we are successful at winning it in certain states, it becomes easier to win it in some of these other difficult states, right? So that's why we're collecting that material. And I mean, Dr. Marissa Palmer, she's been an absolute champ in California for us as we're working there. She's one of the primary contacts there. And so it's, you know, there's just this, I believe wholeheartedly, this is going to be a very easy thing to accomplish if we can organize. If we stay segmented, it's going to take a little bit longer. We're still going to get it done, because I'm not going to stop until it gets done. But I think if we can organize and people are willing to come together, not in agreement of philosophy, not in agreement of technique, not in agreement, but come together for the purpose of securing the future for this space and making sure that chiropractors are free to practice in every single state that are certified, I think this is going to be an easier thing to win, because I don't think we're going to end up fighting the vets as much as everyone thinks we are. I just think the way we've gone about it in the past was more of an argumentative, where now, as I shared with you earlier, our approach isn't to argue with them. I think we're bringing them a gift. I think we're helping them look really, really good and helping them achieve what their job is, if they're willing to sit and listen to us. And we all want the same thing. We only want the appropriate people treating these animals. We all want the same thing. And so that's why I truly believe when we have stakeholder meetings and when they're forced to have to sit down and listen, that they're going to run out of arguments. And when they run out of arguments, then it becomes, this is going to be much easier to push through. We have legislators that are willing to do it because there's no major opponent. And it's going to look good for these senators and representatives that are passing legislation because there's no opposition, which I'm blown away. In New Hampshire, this thing went through both the House and the Senate without any involvement from any of the organizations. Like everyone's blown away. I can't believe it made it through either, but there was no opposition. So the sponsors of that language are just like, yay, you know, we just got an easy bill through and it looks good on our resume. So as that continues to happen and we continue to push those things through, the momentum's going to pick up. So I think we have some good days ahead of us. Go ahead, Dr. Lackey.
This is, I guess, tangential and a little bit off topic compared to what we were just talking to, but I was just wondering, what does the legal support look like? I've personally asked several docs from different states to come on my podcast. I asked some of the docs in Utah if they would come on and talk about their process, and they're scared. They don't want to be named. I like that's not fair to them, but like, they don't want to have their name on this because they're scared that potentially there will be, I don't know, retribution or
Sure.
I personally have been dealing with quite a bit of, I don't know how to put the word politely, but bullshit from fellow doctors and vet board complaints. And I don't have anything really to lose. I practice by the book. And I also have some friends in nice places now. But like, what does the legal element look like? Because, you know, if we put our neck out, which I have, like, do you have lawyers? So if someone's wanting to put their stamp on this, like, what does the protection look like? Because there's a lot of fear, actually. I don't think it's just apathy. I think it's fear.
Sure, which is a valid point. I know there's a lot of that as well, as Donna had shared earlier in Pennsylvania. So the way it works with the Chiropractic Defense Council is if you're a $33 contributor, then and you get targeted, we will defend you. Meaning we will work with the attorneys. Now, what that means is, for example, the guy in New Mexico, his malpractice is covering it, but we're advising the attorneys. So we're aggressively involved, providing the resources. If you're in a situation where your malpractice won't cover it, if it's really a licensure thing, then we will take care of that ourselves. That was also a big vision of our organization, was to give chiropractors confidence to start doing the right work that needs to be done without fear of retribution, because you're no longer just on an island by yourself. You're no longer afraid of going bankrupt if someone targets you. I mean, if you're doing something dumb, I'm not going to defend you. So I'm not going to sit here and say that we'll cover you at all costs. But if someone went on your podcast and they were speaking the truth and they're practicing appropriately and they got targeted, and they were a contributor of ours, we would defend them. So I do have attorneys. We grab new attorneys all the time when we're in a state that maybe I don't have someone that's primed up. So there is a layer of protection with us. There's no additional money that we take from you. If you're a 33 contributor, then we got your back in a situation where your rights are being violated. But again, there's a lot that goes into that. We work very closely with NCMIC, with Chiro Secure. Those are the two larger malpractice carriers in the United States. I know them both intimately. They know we're doing this work. We've leveraged each other's exposure by doing this type of stuff. So I've already got all that stuff built out. And yes, there is a defense there. I just want to be very clear. This isn't like legalese that no matter what happens, the CDC is going to be your legal counsel. That's not true. I don't have the resources to cover everyone's everything, but in a situation where your rights are being violated, then yes, we would cover that. Dr. Palmer.
This is maybe more so just a comment in regards to that organization where we would be dispersing information, maybe besides showing, like saying what is animal chiropractic, including what's not. So for example, maybe kind of how you mentioned the one, I know a lot of animal chiropractors are a little fussy about that, that German guy.
Yeah.
So just including that, maybe of like what isn't animal chiropractic would help as well.
Yeah. So part of the vision that I have, and not that I rule the roost and this is the world according to Barron. I want to be clear. I'm just being the instigator to get things moving. There's two major things that are missing right now in the animal space. Number one of them is a home for people to know where to go when they have questions, concerns, or needs, that they can go get a response and get the resources they need. That's number one. Number two, the world has no idea there's such thing as a certified animal chiropractor. They don't know that it exists. So they don't know one thing from another. So if someone says, take your animal to a chiropractor, they're just going to look and call and say, hey, do you guys treat animals? And then if that office says yes, they're going to take them to that office, right? The world doesn't know. There needs to be a massive media push of educating the general public that you need to get your animal evaluated, but make sure you take them to a certified animal chiropractor, right? And so, part of our long-term vision is also to potentially create a diplomate where there's actually a board certified animal chiropractor, where it's on the same level as a board certified radiologist, a board certified in pediatrics, board certified in rehab, where you can actually start having the credentials after your name, where, you are a DAC, a diplomate in animal chiropractic, right? So these are things that we want to develop when we organize that gives legitimacy to this, but there's a marketing arm that needs to happen. Now, I've already reached out to the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress. I've made them aware of the need for this. They just haven't known who to work with because there was I don't want to do that. I'm not a member organization. That's not how we're suited. I don't have the staffing for that, and I'm not going to use my resources for that. It needs to be created. And so now that I believe we're going to have that created, I will connect them with the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, and they will start doing commercials. They will start doing ads. They will start doing social media posts. They just did 30 commercials during the Masters. They will start doing 30 commercials during the dog shows. You know, the ones that you watch on Sundays where they're, you know, the different class and stuff like that. They'll start doing commercials where they're showing, make sure you take your animal to a certified animal chiropractor, right? So that's a big push that needs to happen, that this organization will start working with the foundation, doing its own thing, pushing things out to its members so that we start having a standard message that's starting to hit that will combat the German ding dong and show that he's an idiot, that you don't freaking do A to P on a dog against a wall, you freaking moron. But people, the general public doesn't know that, right? They don't understand that that's not okay. They think it looks cool because he puts a microphone next to the spine and it creates cracking noises. And we need to combat that, right? And we can't combat by trying to sue him or shut him down. What we do is we become louder and we make sure that we outmaneuver him by creating more content. We're driving it faster and harder, where the algorithms start pushing him lower and lower and lower and us higher and higher and higher, right? So we need an organization that's focused on that, and partnering with the Foundation for Chiropractic Progress, it's a win-win. They'll do most of the heavy lifting to create the content. This new organization will do the pushing it out to you guys. You guys start hitting it on your social medias, right? So that's the vision of what we're trying to accomplish. Andrea?
Hi, I think I know a little bit of the answer to this question, but I just want to put it out there. There are certain states that don't require AVCA or IVCA. I'm in one of them. I'm in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So we're considered certified, having completed, like, I went to options.
Yep.
And, you know, my boss, she went to Healing Oasis. My point being, what is your thoughts to be like, oh, we're certified, but we're not technically the IVCA, AVCA certified. So are we going to have to go through and get the testing then to get
No, I mean, I'm
certified?
not going to mess. I mean, see, there are right now, there are three types of states. There are states that just say you have to have, and this is actually what's passing in New Hampshire, that you have to have a certain amount of hours. And I think in Minnesota, I think it actually says 210 hours or have to have gone to an accredited school or something of that nature.
Correct. There's only 3 different ones they allow for certification in Minnesota.
Yeah. So I'm not going to argue to go in there and change that, right? I'm not going to go in there and try to change that it needs to be certified. So you're fine in Minnesota. But if I'm going into a new state, I'm going to make sure that there's an AVCA, IVCA certification. So right now, amongst the 7 states that they're there, we have some that say either AVCA or IVCA certification, or there's like one other accredited group that I don't even know if they exist anymore. But, and then there are some that say that you just have to go to an accredited school. Then we have states that don't have any language whatsoever. Like they don't even hint about animal chiropractic at all. Then we have states that say there has to be supervision or referral, right? So there's a lot of like differences out there, but to your particular question, do I think it would benefit you to actually take the AVCA certification? Yes, I do. I think it would behoove you. Most of the marketing that I'm going to encourage is going to be about being certified. So, but do you have to do that to continue to do what you're doing in Minnesota? No. I mean, you're okay as long as you've gone and passed the curriculum of an accredited school.
So then second, can I continue?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So second thought off of that, when we had went to options, there was a big hoo-ha about the IVCA, AVCA, and how they were kind of just like big brother clubs. Like they really didn't mean a whole lot. They weren't like the national boards. They weren't like your state boards. So I'm just wondering, as to now that you've talked to both of them, and if anybody else has any input, do they feel the same way, that it is just kind of like a big brother club? Like, oh, you're just a part of the group. Welcome in. Or is it?
So I've talked to both of them intimately. All right. So I'm going to tell you from my perspective, firsthand knowledge of the conversation. The AVCA sees themselves as an accrediting organization. They accredit schools and they certify providers. That's it. That's what they see themselves as, period. They don't have a desire to be a membership organization. I know they have membership. They have an annual dues and stuff like that. I don't really know what you get for that, other than maybe a reduction of CEs potentially. But there's really no membership there. They have zero desire. I've heard it from multiple board members. They have no desire to do anything more than what they're already doing, which is fine. They just are content existing the way they have. And I challenge them on everything from, modernizing the test to do the written part online, to offering more tests than one a year, so it's easier for providers or for students to be able to get the certification. I've hit them with a number of things that I had heard as complaints from schools and providers. But that's where the ACA is. So they don't even believe they're a good boy organization. They're a certifying organization. They certify schools and they accredit schools and they certify providers. That's all they want to do. IVCA, I literally was just on the phone with them Tuesday of this week. They only have a relationship with options only because there's an options in Europe. And so there's a relationship there. That's why they only work there. They do have a desire to work with other schools, but their testing process is significantly different than what AVCA's is. And I'm not saying whether one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's significantly different. So it isn't like AVCA where you go to a centralized location, everybody's there no matter what school you go to. Right now they only offer it at options, and you have to go to options in order to sit for it. No one else can sit for it. So if they work with other schools, like, I don't know how the testing process is going to work. There's a lot of potential wiggle room there. They are fully in agreement that they are not a membership organization. They have one individual that's doing US operations. That's it. They're all Europe. They really only have a desire to do Europe. I've been working with them. I'm going to say they're great people. They have amazing hearts. I have no issue with them whatsoever, but I'm challenging them that they're really not playing in the US really. If they want to keep their relationship with options, they can keep their relationship with options. That's fine. But it just doesn't make sense. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't really have the means to do more than what they're doing now. So just do what you're doing, and we're going to kind of go on and do our thing. They're aware of this new organization. I was very transparent with them about it, and they're supportive of it. As a matter of fact, their one U.S. representative is likely going to be heavily involved with this new organization. So there is going to be a communication there. I think it's just they didn't realize, being both organizations, what it meant to support their students or their certified and providers, and they weren't prepared to do it for right, wrong, or indifferent. They just weren't, which is why stuff hasn't happened and why the need for an organization like that is so necessary, and why I'm pushing to have one created. So I don't think that they think it's a good old boys club, that you're just part of the club. I think they think they're doing their job. And if you guys are willing to pay annual dues to them and they can make some money from it, great. But I think that way of life is going to be changing very quickly. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, in multiple ways. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bonnie.
I was wondering if you heard of the Healing Oasis
Yes.
and their certifying body.
Yeah, that's Pedro, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's 94% vets, not Chiros. So,
And they do work with Lombard, though, University for animal chiropractic certification too.
which again, to me, is very few Chiros. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not saying that flippantly. I'm just saying that
No.
you're right, but I haven't done a lot with him because he's really doing more to attract vets than he is Chiros. The real, to me, in my opinion, not just because he's on here, Bill knows that I'm a pretty straight shooter. Most Chiros are going to ACEs or options. And that's just the ones that they're attracted there. So, and if there's vets on here or listening, I'm not against vets. You don't have the problem. The Chiros have the problem. And that's where I'm putting my energy. And those are the people that I'm working with. But but you are correct that he is another accrediting body. And it's just, again, those individuals, although they're not sitting for AVCA or IVCA, they're going to have issues in the States because Pedro does his own thing, his own way. Like he's his own human. And which is fine. I'm not saying that negatively, but I don't even understand how his testing process works, what he's doing. So for me to put his group in legislation would be very difficult because I'm not sure that I can support it, if it got challenged.
Okay.
And,
That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's why we're just sticking with AVCA, IVCA.
Okay.
I see a number of things on here. Is that national? Yes, Melanie, that's who she was talking about. Yeah, and he does VSMTs. Like, yeah.
Mhm.
Caitlin. Has been worth it to articulate. Yeah. Donna, are you raising your hand? Yeah.
It was easier than
That's
finding the
fine.
little
You're
thing.
good.
In the language, I know in Pennsylvania, it's this fine line hair cutting thing, manipulation and chiropractic.
Yeah, the terminology you mean?
Yes.
Yes. So that is another battle that I have chosen not to get in. I'm just going to be very honest with you about my personal opinion. We have to protect the word chiropractic adjustment.
Absolutely.
We have to protect it. There is a distinction between that and a lot of what, like if with Pedro, he's not teaching a chiropractic adjustment, right? His is an advanced modality of more of what he's doing there. And so I want that protected, to make sure that it doesn't lose what it means, because this is also some of the fight. If you look back in the days of the Wilkes case, like we won that because we argued very aggressively that we were separate and distinct. We were not diagnosing and treating disease. We were merely adjusting the body and letting the body do what the body does. So therefore we couldn't have been practicing medicine because medicine is treating disease and we were not treating disease. We were merely removing interferences, right? It's very the same thing in animal chiro, right? We're not practicing veterinary medicine because we're not treating the disease or diagnosing a particular thing. We're just allowing the body to do what the body does by removing interference. So I'm not going to split hairs on that issue right now because there's so many other fish to fry, but that will become a battleground at some point. And which is another reason why I want the language under the chiropractic scope rather than in the vet scope, because, to them, chiropractic is the pop, right? That using your hand to create a pop. I mean, that's what they think it is. And so there's a magnitude amount of education that needs to happen in this space for animal owners and providers to truly understand what it is animal chiropractic is to us. And so, yes, I agree with you, Donna, that is going to be a discussion. It's just not one that I'm embarking on at this juncture.
The reason I was asking is I usually reach out to when I get new clients and they'll say, oh, I saw so-and-so as an animal chiropractor. And then I go and I look and I go, they're not certified. And then I call the office because they're not listed anything on their website. And these are veterinarians.
Yeah.
And I look and I call the office and they go, oh, they went to rehab school and they do manipulation, but no one knows what it's called. So we call it chiropractic.
Yeah.
And 10 hours of manipulation in rehab school or wherever they're learning it, yes, it's deceiving to the public.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm running into now is they're going, well, I went to a chiropractor. No, you didn't. You went to a physical therapist that does manipulation.
Which is, again, why I think both social media and resource-wise, with this new organization providing all of those resources to you guys to really flood the market, to rebrand that and re-educate what that means, you guys will pump that stuff out to your people and feel very confident about it. So yeah, that's definitely part of the agenda.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Marissa.
My only comment to make, because I know people are asking, maybe the benefit of being certified would also be proving our safety standpoint, because to maintain certification, you have to do continuing education hours. So that shows our continual improvement in safety and knowledge and our scope of animals that we work on. So that would be just another point of why the standardized language would want technically the certification.
Yeah, true. Yep. No, good point. Melanie.
Sorry, I should have been more prepared. So to Dr. Marissa's point, and Baron, you have had conversations with AVCA and IVCA more recently than I have, but when we were talking with Texas, apparently if you stop paying your yearly dues with the AVCA or IVCA, they still let you say that you're certified.
Well, yeah, because
So,
you pass the certification, they're 3 years. You just have to, you'll have to pay, like with the IVCA, I know, because I just had this conversation. If you're not a ongoing paying member, it's after the 3 years, it's $150 every 3 years to maintain your certification.
but there are people who stop paying that. They're not policing it, is my point. There are
Oh,
people
I
who
got
stop
you.
paying it.
Yeah.
They're still saying they're certified, and they're not getting the CEs, to Dr. Marissa's point. Nobody's
Okay.
paying attention to it.
Okay.
So, and the other point to Dr. Donna's, 100%, the public doesn't know. Because I answer the phone calls in our office and I triage the phone calls and I set up the appointments and I set up the travel schedule, and I'm usually doing a lot of the talking while Dr. Bleem is working. The public doesn't know. They don't know why the last guy didn't get a referral. They don't understand that. They don't even understand the difference between a chiropractor and a vet. Honestly,
Yep.
it's I cannot say that enough. And so we have spent a lot of time educating Central Illinois about why you need to find somebody that's certified. There's a vet down in Southeastern Illinois that's referring to her vet tech to adjust. Actually, I don't know if she's referring. The vet tech is just adjusting. So I pretty much am turning most of those people in. I turn people in almost every single month here in the state of Illinois. Now, of course, the state of Illinois is so far behind, you don't ever get a phone call back about, it takes about 14 months plus to get a phone call back for those people who should not be adjusting. And the other thing, when we were talking it's been almost 4 years now about changing the law, I got the ear of a guy on the beef, some big beef board here in the country. And I was telling him why he would, you're going to want a certified animal chiropractor. Unfortunately, that restricts our access to you because we're having to get this referral. There's a delay of care. There's, I listed the things, and he's like, oh my gosh, we don't care if you get the referral. It's okay. So they don't even get, they don't even get what your complaint is about this restriction of trade.
Yeah. No, they wouldn't. I mean, why would he? I mean, he
Right.
cares about is the care getting provided. He doesn't care about your licensure or the fact that vets get pissed off, right? So there is a ton of confusion. Again, there's a ton of confusion because there's small numbers, right? It's very important to you guys, but if you're talking about 1,400 providers and half of those are not actively doing animals, they have it, but they've given up and they're just doing primarily human and a few animals there. There's not many of these people that are like the ones on this call where this is your life and this is everything you're doing. And so when you have such a small number in this big space of animals, that's where all of this comes from. And it's our fault. It's chiropractic's fault on every avenue that the world doesn't understand chiropractic. Like we have been, again, circling wagons and shooting inward rather than organizing and telling our story. And it's no different in the animal space, which is what I'm trying to do, is organize it, create a place and move, these 1,500 people at the same place at the same time in the same direction. And so I agree with you on everything you just said. That's never going to change until we organize. The good news is once we do organize, it's going to change very quickly because we are going to be louder than those that are saying ignorance or misinformation because we're organized. And there's going to be an organization that's their primary purpose is this. Like it's to communicate this, to create awareness, to create demand, to combat those other types of issues, to be in a place to be able to really stand up and educate the world on these particular issues. But I agree with you. I know we deal with that everywhere. Trust me, I'm fighting with some state associations that are like, well, we can't put a certification in place because we've had doctors that have been treating animals for decades and this will stop them from doing it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but okay, then they can go get certified. Or they can keep flying under the radar. I don't care, but it needs to be legitimized and there needs to be language that we can start building an actual environment around. And so if you get pissed just because you're in podunk nowhere and you're best friends with the vet and nobody cares, then keep doing it and break the law because nobody cares. But we're going to fix the law so that those that are going to do it the right way are doing it the right way and they're protected. And so that's the whole mission. So yes, I agree with you, and I hear that in just about every state I go into. Bill, you're muted.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate what you're doing. Hope you don't get too much background because we are teaching right now. We're in lab. Sorry, I was late.
You're good.
One of the things that I noticed the CE to Melanie, the AVCA will take your name off of their referral chart. That's the only thing. So we tell people to go to the websites and find it, to find a current AVCA or IVCA certified doctor. It's hard on the IVCA chart, and I don't know if they're
Oh, we lost you, Bill. He literally is in nowhere, Texas. So I'm surprised they have internet out there. All right, we'll see if he comes back. But yeah, so basically his point is just that the AVCA does say, I don't know that the IVCA actually does monitor it because again, they don't have anyone in the US really to do that. So that'll get fixed with the new organization for sure. I'm just tracking the chat here, making sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other major questions? We've been on here for about an hour. So anybody else have anything else that I kind of touched a nerve or anything? Okay. What do I need from you guys? So what I'm trying to do, as I've said throughout the whole thing, is organize. If you go to, and I'll put it here in the chat to everybody, I want everybody to go to this website. I'm a man, so hold on. I can only do one thing at a time. Better spelled it right. Send everybody to that website. If they go to that website and just fill out the form at the bottom, that doesn't mean they're contributing. It just means they're putting themselves in our database with the tag of animal chiropractic. I want to grow that database. I don't solicit. A lot of you guys have been on it and you know I'm not soliciting on it. All I'm doing is sharing information, but we want to organize. I want as many people in that as possible. I'm going to be doing more updates now that there's a lot more happening. The first year and a half has really been just a lot of conversations and me learning the environment, but now it's all about moving forward. So what I need from you guys, if you hear things, if you have information, come to me. Let me help guide. Let me absorb what you're saying. Let me answer questions. I'm not necessarily, well, I am tooting my own horn. I am very good at strategy. I'm very, very good at strategy and the right way to approach things to create a better outcome. So before people get half cocked and start like throwing darts, I would love to just talk to you. You can do what you want to do. Just give me an opportunity to weigh in so that I can ensure that we're not wasting time, energy, or creating more hurdles for ourselves down the road, which chiropractic loves to do that when we overreact to certain situations. So all I need from you guys is to help me organize, send more people to that website, get them in the system so that we can communicate with them and get that done. I'd love to grow that to about 1,000 names of people around the US so that everyone's getting the right information at the right time and we're able to move. When we're in a state, I can target those people from that particular state, say, hey, we need this. We did it in California and Dr. Palmer and Dr. Beck did a really good job of, we needed testimonials from vets. We needed testimonials from animal owners. We needed testimonials from chiros, and we were able to get it very quickly because of the network that they've developed there. So that's the power of us being organized and moving forward together. And I will tell you, I'm hoping by mid-June, I will be able to share with you more about this organization. I just need to make sure it's actually going to happen. And I'm not 100% sure yet. So, but I'm excited about that because I think that's going to be a very good centralizing location for everyone to go and be a part of. And they're going to be very similar to us. So it's just going to be a small amount of money a month to be a part of it and to gain access to all the resources and everything that's being developed. So it's not going to be, a huge financial commitment. But I'm excited about that because I think this space definitely needs it. So I thank you guys so much for being here, for taking the time this evening to be a part of this. I'm gonna edit this a little bit. I'm gonna kick it out to everybody in our database. So then you guys can share it with any of your colleagues or friends that want to watch and hear what's going on. But I can't thank you enough. But yeah, Katie, you're going to talk about Texas a little bit, right?
I mean, I'm happy to if you guys want me to. Just gonna, I guess, shamelessly here say I am part of the Texas effort. We worked on it last session. Did not pass. We got way farther than anyone thought we would. We made it past our committee hearing. And then we were moving towards a House floor vote. And unfortunately, my understanding is money exchanged hands and we timed out due to relationships a certain person had, which is unfortunate because we were on the docket to be voted on, potentially would have moved forward. But anyway, can't change that moving forward this year. A couple new stumbling blocks have arisen, and one of those being, we need more people. We need invested people to be plugged in, perhaps financially donating as well. Baron's been super gracious to coordinate with us, and we're, I think, both in two different ships, but at least rowing the same direction is my expression. And if you guys would like to support your colleagues in other states, that would be much appreciated. We're hosting some CE events. One of our docs, Dr. Mindy, is really good at adjusting steers. She teaches on it quite often, and she's hosting some online CE. I've posted about it on my Making Strides group. I would love if you could join us, get plugged in. I think the proverbial we, me and Baron, are just trying to get people plugged in and rowing the same way. We don't care what your personal beliefs are, but rowing the same direction. And previously, starting my materials, my podcast and my group and everything like that, is just trying to bring people together and row the same direction. We want to move this field forward. And I'm really happy that Baron's, hosting this call, because he's like, Katie, why aren't more people involved? I'm like, I think you just need to talk to him, Baron. So anyway, thank you for hosting this open call. I really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to get plugged into Texas, just reach out to me. I'll post my phone number in the chat. Don't give it out to clients, so it's my personal. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Katie. They are doing great work down in Texas for sure. And we're excited to see a successful campaign in 2025. But all right, guys, thank you so much. I love and appreciate you all. Thank you guys for loving what I love and for working with us to better our world through chiropractic, man. That's my whole mission in life. So I appreciate the honor and privilege to be able to be a part of that. So if with nothing else to say or do, I appreciate you guys. Have a great remainder of your evening, and we'll be talking soon. All right. Take care, guys.